The most daunting question in the history of biology, if not in all of contemporary empirical science, remains: how did life begin? This is the ultimate challenge facing scientists in global universities and research centers dedicated to the origins of life. We have peered into the subatomic depths of the atom. Our space telescopes and probes traverse the cosmos to decode the history of existence. We have excavated thousands of tons of sedimentary, sandy, and clay rocks searching for a clue to this enigma. Yet the mystery remains unsolved. Libraries are overflowing with mountains of books, speculative research, and non-experimental hypotheses attempting to analyze the origin of life, yet the puzzle persists. It is as if we haven't written a single definitive paper yet, as if we haven't taken a single step toward understanding that extraordinary moment when life first emerged on Earth. To this day, we haven't witnessed a single credible scientific study that truly deciphers the mechanism of life's emergence, and it seems unlikely we will in the near future. This resonates with the divine statement in the noble Quran: "I did not make them witnesses to the creation of the heavens and the earth, nor to their own creation." Therefore, be cautious of any researcher who claims to have solved the origin of life. Know that such a writer is closer to a storyteller or a clown than a serious scientist. There isn't a single reputable scientist today who knows how life began. If someone tells you that science knows, they are speaking from a position far removed from true scientific rigor. What is even more puzzling is our inability to even define life itself, let alone produce it. We possess supercomputers, massive laboratories, and all the necessary chemical precursors and laboratory capabilities, yet if we attempt to combine all these elements to create life, we fail. To this day, we haven't moved forward by a single inch. How is it possible that these elite universities and brilliant minds cannot produce even the simplest form of life? Yet atheists insist that life emerged by accident in the chaotic, primitive environment of early Earth. This highlights one of the fundamental flaws within the materialistic, atheistic worldview, where advocates of atheism hold unreasonable perceptions for something that appears to be stunningly designed. At this point, some might pose a critical question. True, we haven't produced life, and we don't fully understand its essence. However, the Earth is billions of years old. Is it not permissible to use the logic of probability to discuss the origin of life? Even if the odds are near impossible, they remain a statistical possibility. But is this reasoning sound? Can we truly apply the laws of probability to the emergence of life? Unfortunately, this represents one of the most significant fallacies in atheistic discourse. When you engage in this debate using the language of probability, you inadvertently bypass fundamental logical necessities. The logic of probability only applies to rational possibilities, things that are inherently possible within the realm of reason. Now, consider this. If the entirety of mankind, with all our collective intellect, advanced machinery, elite universities, and research facilities, has failed to create life, how can one claim it is rationally possible for it to happen in a chaotic, primitive environment? To then attempt mathematical equations for such an event is an unbearable absurdity. The moment of life's emergence transcends the scope of simple probability. This echoes the divine challenge in the noble Quran. O mankind, a parable is set forth, so listen to it. Indeed, those you invoke besides Allah will never create as much as a fly, even if they gathered together for that purpose. What is life? No one knows. How did it emerge? No one knows. Can you produce it with all your power? No. Then what probability are you talking about? For instance, we know how to build an airplane. Therefore, we could technically place it within the realm of probability that a violent storm might assemble a pile of scrap metal into a plane, because it is rationally possible, even if practically impossible. However, life is fundamentally different. It is something we cannot initiate ourselves, and thus it does not belong in the domain of probability. Atheists might ask again, what about the Miller-Urey experiment? Stanley Miller and Harold Urey conducted this famous experiment at the University of Chicago in 1952. It demonstrated how methane and ammonia could be converted into amino acids. However, what is the actual relationship between this and the origin of life? Amino acids are merely chemical structures. An entire ocean could be filled with them. The real challenge is, can you produce the simplest form of life from such an ocean? You have amino acids everywhere, so why is it impossible to generate life from them? The strangest part of this experiment involves hydrogen, a crucial element for converting nitrogen into ammonia and carbon dioxide into methane. However, hydrogen was practically non-existent in the early Earth's atmosphere because it escapes into space almost immediately upon being released from volcanoes. Miller and Urey assumed that 76% of the early atmosphere was hydrogen just to make their equations work. Their entire experiment was built on this flawed premise. Even more bizarre was their assumption that there was no oxygen. If oxygen had been present, it would have broken down the methane into carbon dioxide and water. Conversely, if there was no oxygen, there would be no ozone layer. This means ultraviolet and cosmic rays would reach the Earth's surface and instantly destroy the ammonia. In either scenario, the building blocks of amino acids could not have emerged. As I mentioned before, amino acids are not synonymous with the emergence of life. No matter how much they accumulate or how many experiments are conducted on them, they will never spontaneously generate life. This is because life is a code. Life is information. It is not merely inert matter. Life is an informational system, a reality that materialists constantly try to ignore. There's not a single living being whose functions are not literally encoded and written inside its DNA. This is what we call the genome located within the cell nucleus. For instance, your hair color, height, the protein in your muscles, and even your skin, everything is encoded within the DNA of every single cell in your body. Every living organism, no matter how small or large, relies on this code. The way information is encoded is truly staggering. How do written instructions become functional organs? How does a digital-like code transform into kidneys, skin, muscles, and eyes? These are the secrets of the meaning of life and divine creation. Life is not merely a collection of physical components, it is preeminently an informational entity. Do you know how they responded to this dilemma? They suggested an RNA world preceded the DNA world. I'm not joking, it is a futile method of handling such a profound problem. Because RNA itself is a sophisticated encoding system, carrying genetic informatics that perform specific functions. Most importantly, the RNA hypothesis is scientifically fragile. By its very nature, RNA is highly unstable and typically only appears within a living cell as a temporary storage for genetic information. The strange thing is that there isn't a single shred of evidence to support this hypothesis. You are attempting to explain one sophisticated system with another equally sophisticated system and calling it an explanation. This is why the RNA world hypothesis is considered one of the weakest links in evolutionary theory. It answers nothing and offers no real solutions for the origin of the information code. Materialists didn't stop there. They suggested perhaps life emerged due to deep-sea hydrothermal vents, where dissolved substances in a unique environment could be the cradle of life. But our question isn't where life appeared, our fundamental question is how. They are evading the core of the problem by discussing the location rather than the mechanism. However, the knockout blow to this hypothesis comes from a simple chemical law. Water breaks down amino acid chains. For amino acids to bond, they must lose a water molecule. If you add water, the bond breaks. So how can one suggest that life emerged in an aquatic environment? This is why reputable scientists have begun to ignore this hypothesis. It is mere speculation, a leap into the unseen without empirical proof. This resonates with the Quranic verse, and they continually cast slanders on the unseen from a position far off, in 34:53. These were the most famous speculations offered, and they only serve to confirm the failure of the atheistic materialist analysis. If there's no answer to this primary question, the origin of life, then out of respect for human reason, we should not dwell on secondary topics before resolving the foundation. These secondary topics include macroevolution between species, yet they haven't even explained how the first cell began. Nevertheless, we will meet them at that level and discuss those details in the upcoming episodes of this series, The Theory of Evolution from A to Z. Peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.